Hi everyone, welcome to Recovery. My name is Alain Kapata Shungu, and I'm the co-founder of Frontdoor. So today I'm really excited because we get to chat with Leigh Brown, who is the broker owner at One Community Real Estate in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina. So Leigh, first of all, how's your week so far? How's your week been so far?
Like every other week, every day is an adventure. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's so
I,
funny. The rest of the world is excited for Friday because they think their
yeah.
week is over. But in real estate, there is no
Oh.
end of your week. It's just another day.
Talk about it. That's exactly right. I agree with that. So before we get into it, let me give you a little bit of context on how Leigh and I got connected, and as well, obviously, about her resume, which is really awesome. So Leigh actually met with my co-founder back in 2016, who was now my wife, when we just got started with Frontdoor in San Francisco. I think it was at Inman Connect back then. So, and then recently Emily reached out to Leigh, and I was really interested in just having her to chat and learn more about how she's been able to manage through this pandemic that we are all going through. So for those of you guys who don't know Leigh, so she's just what I call a visionary leader, right? So she's an entrepreneur. She's an incredible track record in our space, obviously. She's also a keynote speaker. We're going to talk about it a little later on, and with a really strong message and focus on motivational and sales message designed to challenge and change, which is what we need in these times, as you guys obviously know about it. So Leigh also believes in betterment of others, which is what we believe in as well here on Frontdoor, and the community that's actually works in, which is really awesome. And on a personal note, I wasn't able to make it to San Francisco back in 2016 when she met Emily. But I remember Emily telling me a story that right before she went to pitch, she kind of not panicked, but she was a little bit concerned. And Leigh, this is just me, just believing in God. I believe she just acted as the Holy Spirit. She comforted her, and she says everything's gonna be okay. So just for that, it's one of the reasons where I just feel like this was meant to happen. So I'm just really excited to talk to Leigh today. So Leigh, thank you for that one.
Oh, it's an honor. You know, it's
Yeah,
every day is an honor, right? And God
absolutely.
does put us in other people's paths at the right time with His time.
Agreed.
And this is just a season, right? So this is a hard
Absolutely.
time that we're in this pandemic, but it's a season. And if you're a believer, you know that we have seasons. And if you're not a
Agreed.
believer, talk to me, talk to Alan. We will totally introduce you. We're good with that.
I agree with that. That's so true. That's definitely true. So if you're ready, Leigh, let's get started. So
All
my
right.
first question that I have for you, as a broker owner, obviously, can you describe or at least try to walk us through your quote unquote typical work day, like during this unprecedented times that we actually living in? How does your work, how does it all work for you?
Well, first of all, I'm glad to be back in my office space. So we are still, of course, everybody's being super cautious, but
Yeah,
I'm so tired of my dining room, which had become my Zoom studio. I'll do anything to come in.
I
And
get it.
that's been an interesting shift. And of course, a
Yeah,
lot of people believe offices will be dead in the future. And I don't believe that. I do think there will be a
I don't.
shift in the
Absolutely.
amount of time we spend in offices, but it's a refuge right now from my family. So I
Yeah.
really love it. But every day is a combination of getting myself focused
Okay.
and then finding a way to focus on the business, because in the pre-pandemic, I think a
Yeah.
lot of us were totally 100% work.
True.
We didn't
True.
have to focus. We were able to just go be busy. And
True.
then when the pandemic started, everything stopped. And so you
Yeah.
find yourself at a standstill. And in some areas, it was longer than others. And then your focus went away. I mean, your business
Agreed.
goes away, your focus, it's easy to just melt. And
Yeah.
so I've had to get myself back in the space of how do I force myself to get up and force myself to put on professional dress
Awesome.
and go to work, even if it's going to work by Zoom.
Yeah.
So every day for me is I get up at 4 o'clock. I know that's not
Oh wow.
normal because I like to
Wow.
run in the dark because nobody can see
Okay.
me. And I'm not a pretty runner, but I run because I like to eat and it clears my head. And
Yeah.
then after I get back from running, I drink coffee and do my devotion so that I can
Okay.
get my
Awesome.
head in the right space at the beginning of the day. I
Okay.
can't save it for the end. And I will tell you that a lot of people save exercise and they save any devotion time for the end of the day, but you're
Yeah.
so drained at that point. You're not putting your
Agreed.
best
Agreed.
your most rested self into it. And so I get it done first. And then I listen to the news. I have to do the devotion before the news because it will stress me out otherwise. So I have to fill the bucket up first. And then I get busy with my day and I do the emails and the messages. And then at 8 o'clock is my first phone call of the day. And I call somebody that I love, whether it's a past client or it's a neighbor or a family member. I learned a long time ago that too many of us only want to call business-related contacts. And you call the person you've never met first. Well, they don't know you, so it may not be a good phone call. And so if I start my day with something that I know is going to be positive and it's going to be helpful and relational, I can do everything else. And then the day is going to be a combination right now of Zoom buyer consultations, Zoom seller consultations. I love to do as much as possible over the computer first to determine somebody's motivation level, because why am I going to cause them any kind of fear or stress if they're not ready, but they can still have my brains. Absolutely. And then I'll show houses when I have to show houses. I think we're all seeing that right now. You don't have as much schedule control as you used to because the inventory is too low. And then I cook supper and then I hang out with the kids during the day. And that's been one of the gifts of this season is the amount of time we've spent as a family. But
I agree.
They need their peer groups. And so I'm also grateful for that loosening back up some.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Wow, that's the definition of a full day, Leigh, right there. That's definitely the definition of a full day.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the way that I can manage my day is like I write everything down, and so I'm a journal person.
That's great. So do I.
All of my sellers are on yellow paper, and my buyers are on blue paper, so I can find them. And then I have my whiteboard has my most active prospects on it because I'm a visual learner, which is why Zoom is hard for me because I don't absorb it the same way visually as I do kinesthetically. So I have to have a combination.
I agree. Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. So obviously you being a leader again, kind of pretty much of a follow-up question here. Like, how did you manage to stay on top of not only your team, because obviously you have a team of sales associates, but also your clients' needs during this pandemic? How you've been able to stay in contact with them other than Zoom, for example?
Well, with my team, it's been a lot of Zoom, but we've managed to have some in-person gatherings. And again, you're got to feel out everybody's level of fear and accommodation with this season that we're in. And the way I describe it is that you have some people on this end of the spectrum that firmly believe we're all going to die and that we're in the Walking Dead, and they're panicked and they jump when you come near them. And on the other end, you have the people who are like, it's not even real. And so we all know that there's kind of a middle ground.
In the middle, exactly.
So we have discovered our middle ground. And in fact, what's happening in my office today is a baby shower for one of our agents who's expecting in just a couple weeks. And so this was where she wanted to have it because she feels safest at the office because we've cleaned and sanitized the space regularly. And we just had to stay up with each other. But that's been hard because one thing we're not talking about enough in the real estate space is the mental challenges that a lot of realtors are going through because we're such a people.
Exactly.
Rotary Club and BNI and lunches and breakfast and coffees and we go and love and we hug and that's been taken away. And Zoom, I don't care who the expert is, Zoom is not a replacement. Zoom is a temporary patch and a tool that we can use, but it does not do justice to body language and to physical interaction because you're supposed to hug people.
Absolutely.
For optimal health, you're supposed to have 10 hugs a day. And so if you wonder why realtors are sinking, it's because they're not getting that actual interaction that they're used to. We're trying to find ways to lean into that and at the same time keep people comfortable. And so I want to make sure that I can give as much support to my team as they want. And they've been giving it back to me because
that's awesome.
One thing we see in real estate too, and you've seen this talking to other agents, team leaders sometimes think they have to do everything for the people who affiliate with them, but it's a two-way street. And so my team lifts me up probably more than I lift them up if I'm honest about it. And we have to have an ability to humanize each other first because then you can sell more houses.
Absolutely. That's a great relationship there. And speaking about that, you can see that especially team leaders that it's exactly what you just shared, that like they have just this capacity to not only be able to lead but also to be able to feed from their team as well. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So the thing that I wanted to follow up on is obviously one thing that is fascinating to me, but that I didn't know, that I just discovered as I was doing a little bit of research on you before chatting. You are also a motivational speaker, which is awesome, by the way, first of all. And I think it's just a plus with you being in such a leadership role. Like, so if I may ask you, what message did you disseminate to your team? We were talking about it a little earlier, which I'm certain was encouraging, that you could maybe share with us as we go into this in certain times. Like, how did you approach them? How did you manage to keep their motivation still up despite these in certain times that we're going through?
Well, it's about knowing each other, right?
Yeah.
And so you think about it, the social media world has been good in some regards, but it's been so negative in some other regards. And it's caused us to take a deep relationship and make it more shallow.
Absolutely.
When originally we all looked at it and said, this is going to take a shallow relationship and make it deeper.
Yeah.
And so when you think about how we've gotten really shallow, we don't know each other. We're not honoring what people go through in life. And I see this with agents when we're dealing in a transaction, and there's a good agent friend of mine whose stress level got really, really high because her dad has Alzheimer's. And you do a deal with her, and it's not the level of professionalism it would normally be. But then if you've taken the relationship this much deeper and you know what's happening with her, then if you're a decent human, you're going to show a little grace and say, how can I help you help all of us, because you have other things happening. And so the same thing with my team and with the agents around me. It's my job to know a little bit about what's happening so I can support, I can ask better questions and provide better answers. And so this is also really going to go into my main topic, which my first book was in 2016, and it's called Outrageous Authenticity, talking about how you have to learn how to be yourself. And the world right now can punish you for being yourself, and you have to be comfortable enough with who you are and what your beliefs are and what your faith is to acknowledge that not everybody's going to love you. But the minute that you embrace yourself in all its good, bad, and ugly, other people find it easier to embrace you because they know what they're dealing with. And some people will go away from you, and that's okay, because I was raised to understand that I don't have to make everybody love me, but I have to love everybody else. And so that's where we got to think differently. And so with my team, we all have wildly different political views, right? And so it's a political season, everybody talks about it. But what we've discovered is that we know where everybody is-ish, and we have really vibrant discussions, and it's not ugly, and it's not personal, and it's not nasty. And so what that does is it draws us closer together, even though we disagree. And so that's where my motivational stuff really started to hit. And what I have found is that my potential clients are drawn to that, even when they disagree with me completely on politics, because what they value is the honesty. And they value the fact that there is somebody that's strong enough to defend myself. I must be strong enough to defend their needs in the real estate transaction. And that's a lesson each of us really, really needs right now, because we're so fast to judge. And unfortunately, our judgment now says, if you're not in my echo chamber, you must be destroyed and abolished and stand for me. And that's so unhealthy. We should be saying, oh, tell me more. Should be our, most of us, our catchphrase, tell me more.
Exactly. I love it. This is so true. Especially in the times we're living right now, and with everything that we're going through and the social unrest that's happening, obviously for you guys over in the US. So I think that the mistake that we most often make, especially as people, is exactly, you completely nailed on it, is, so I have my own experience, and you might be going through something, but I really don't want to get into it. I just want to stay on my lane, which is comfortable, which is better. But I think that if we actually take everybody's experience, that's the best way to learn. I always say that adversity is the best teacher, because you will never learn something unless you go into somebody else's shoes and you can actually see life or adversity through their point of view. That's how you grow, to me.
Yes, so, and then to not be so condescending that I assume that I can walk in your shoes, because I can't. Where you are today is not the you of 4 years ago when you fell in love. and it's not the you of 4 years before that. And so we also have got to be thinking differently about how people grow and age and mature, and the way we meet other people can change us.
Absolutely.
And there's so many points in my life, and I know the people that I met that accidentally lifted me up and pushed me down my journey differently. Yeah. And I'm different today because of those interactions. Wow. And so if you start banning people from your space and you stop listening to other people, you know, what are you missing? You're missing that road to Damascus, right?
Absolutely. So I love it.
We don't all get blinded like Paul did, but
absolutely. I love
we maybe are blinded.
That's an awesome analogy, by the way. That's awesome.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can ask either one of us.
We can definitely help on that one. We can direct you to the right book to read, for sure. So the one thing that also I need to have your take on is, in your opinion, what do you think that, okay, we're going through this COVID-19 pandemic, and maybe there's something that has been overlooked before, but just like COVID really highlighted as an undeniable demand in an industry. This could be a product, this could be a service, this could be just the way we do business. What do you think, actually, in your opinion, has been highlighted through this pandemic in our industry as a need?
Well, honestly, I think it's the fact that before we came into this pandemic season, if you asked anybody in real estate their number one concern about the business, they would have said lack of inventory. Okay, that hasn't changed. That's still the issue now. Yeah. But their other concern was, do I have a job in the future, or will I be replaced by AI and AR and blockchain? And I heard about this app and this venture capital company, and they've just got all these little external things causing an unnecessary fear. But what happened the minute the pandemic season hit is every agent had somebody calling them and saying, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. Give me some advice. And you can never get advice from AI, AR, definitely not.
I love this point.
You don't know what it is. And you're not going to get it from a hedge fund or an app. You only get advice from another human.
Absolutely.
And the best realtors have leaned into that and said, my job is not to tell you what to do. My job is to give you my best counsel so that you can determine your best outcomes and the pros and the cons. And I think a lot of really good realtors have leaned into that because there's been a general push throughout the world of, you need to check on your neighbors. Are your neighbors okay? Can you help them?
Absolutely.
And so we've leaned back into community in a much more impactful way, which I can only hope and dream that applies to real estate in the future, because that's also the best way to serve your clients.
Absolutely.
Let me not tell you what to do, but give you my best counsel so you can decide.
I love it. This is like the point that always frustrates me when you, especially us being in the technology industry, the thing that you always hear about, you know, as you know, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, just like everybody wants to do everything, right? So you will always hear about these pitches and these venture capital firms talking about, okay, we're going to replace agents. And even when they talk about us, when I got the opportunity to go out and start raising funding for our last financing round, before we closed the round, so we met a lot of people. And the main question was, okay, you're doing this, that will end up helping agents be more productive and so on and so on. Why any AI, for example, would be able to do it? And that always make me laugh. And that's exactly where I just, raise and leave the meeting, because it doesn't make sense. When you think about it, this is like the most important decision of a human being. Like, really, how can you have a machine tell you what to do? It's exactly what you just said. Like, you need to pick up the phone and have somebody on the other hand and ask, okay, what should I do? How can an AI know what to tell you what to do? What do you even start? It just doesn't even make sense. So I really loved your take on that. It's something that it always makes me laugh. So every time I see an article about it, it just makes me laugh, because this is not a future. I know we love this idea, but it's just stupid to me. Like,
so you think about it, it's like it works for some things, right? It works for travel, because travel is a commodity, and it works for electronics. Electronics are a commodity, but real estate is unique because it's a massively big financial instrument, but it's fraught with emotion. Because you look at this house and you're like, can my mom live with me because she's disabled? Right. Can I have a baby here? Oh, what do I do here? And there's things that have nothing to do with the physical properties of real estate, everything to do with the humanity involved.
Humanity, exactly. Absolutely. Completely agree on that. So here in Paris, and I had the opportunity as well to talk with some of our customers in New York, and they've been just sharing how the market has been decelerating over there, obviously here in Paris as well. So can you give us maybe a little snapshot about the state of the market in Charlotte and North Carolina in general? Like how are things going over there as it pertains to listings and transactions and things of that nature?
Well, all those people that are leaving New York are coming here.
That's great news for you. That's great news, actually.
Lower tax environment. We are the second biggest financial market after New York City, which is always a surprise because Charlotte seems to be the quiet big city. But when people come here, they're grateful because it's a fairly affordable market. Of course, in the opening price points, it's tricky and it's very competitive. But we can still find options for people within a decent drive that are less expensive than rents, which is a wonderful thing for folks from other parts of the country who had no dream of home ownership. That can be achieved here, and that's ridiculously fulfilling. But we have jobs here. We have a new employer that just announced last week they're coming here and bringing 7,000 jobs. And I talked to one of the managers this week, and he's on a hiring spree right now, and so that's available here. And then we're 3 hours to the beach and we're 2 hours to the mountains. And so it's a very easy place for people to land. And by nature of where we are with our 4 natural seasons, we tend to attract people from all parts of the country, all parts of the world. I know that the street that my husband and I just moved, but the house we were just in, of the 6 houses on our cul-de-sac, everybody was from somewhere else and looked different from everybody else and was a different age than everybody else. And it was the best little cul-de-sac ever because there was so much vibrancy there. See that in the Charlotte area. But one thing we are watching at the end of this season that we're in is that people are more anxious now to have land. They want a little more privacy.
Agreed,
A house with a pool used to be a liability, and now that's a commodity because you have the private resort. And we're definitely seeing a request for work from home ability, from home ability. And one thing that I think will be a national situation that we should be all focused on improving is broadband access across every kind of county, town, municipality, because that tends to be super accessible in our big cities. But as people want to move out and get a little more space, you find that it's creating some inequities in the education space and the working space.
That's interesting.
On the big picture, that's one thing we're working on here is how do we increase that and make it better?
That's awesome. That's actually great news for you then, what's happening in big city. That's good to know.
We'll take them all. They pay cash. They're always glad to come down here. But then we have to teach them how to slow it down a little bit because in New York City, it's a little faster in the Charlotte lifestyle because, it's this room to relax here. You get to go outside to a park and you're going to get to go out to eat and hang out with your family, whatever the composition of that family is. They're going to find a home here.
The base is way different. And I remember so I grew up I was born in Burundi, and then I grew up in Rwanda, and then I moved to France when I was 10 years old. And the first time I went to the US, actually, it was in Charlotte. So that was the first time I went there. I was 15 years old, and it was just awesome to me. So my big brother lives there. And it was really, it's exactly what you just described. And then I had the opportunity with school to go to New York, and then obviously building the company to be able to move here and there. But I agree. The feel is just I always had this trip in my mind. I've been able to go few places around the globe, but Charlotte just, it has that feel. When I was there, it felt like Europe a little bit.
Maybe y'all need to come on down here. Come on, find a place to live.
Definitely.
I got an office here. Y'all could set up Frontdoor over here in a spare office.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Be careful there. I might be taking you on that offer. So that's awesome to hear.
It's open anytime. All right.
That's awesome. So following up on that as well, still. So as you know, you have a new agents getting their license in these really complicated and hard times. What would you say to somebody just getting his license in this very special time like this? They just got their license and COVID happens. What should they do right now? How should they jumpstart their businesses?
Mentor. Get a mentor. Get a mentor. I don't really know how anybody survives in real estate, regardless of market conditions, if you don't have somebody experienced to answer your questions and give you some guidelines. Because the way real estate is set up, it is obviously one of the most attractive entrepreneurial opportunities because the barriers to entry are so low. Anybody from any educational and economic background can give it a shot, but it's really hard.
It's
hard.
So
what you get in licensing class is not going to teach you how to sell a house. It's going to help you not go to jail. A mentor is going to say, take that information, tuck it away here, but let's talk about how to ask the right questions of buyers and sellers. How do you get to know the market? What do you do when you encounter situations? And I was lucky because when I got in 20 years ago, I had my dad. And so my dad was a realtor since 1978. And so I had somebody, and I could live in his pocket. And I did. I lived in his pocket for 90 days and I didn't say a word. I just absorbed everything so that I could figure out how to make it. And is absolutely, without doubt, the biggest thing people have to do. And the second most important thing to do is learn how to pick up this phone and make phone calls. Not send text, not send Facebook messages, but say, hey,
exactly.
Voice. And you hear the inflection, you can hear the emotion, you can hear the energy. And I don't know why we have allowed technology to get in the way of our relationships as much as we have. And the telephone brings a lot of it back. And yeah, people will screen you. They'll send you to voicemail, but most of them will listen to it and say, oh, that's who that was calling. I'll call him back later. And then they will.
Absolutely. I love it. Get a mentor and pick up the phone. Those are the two things that you just need as a new agent right now.
And they don't cost you any money either. That's the craziest part.
Yeah, true.
Love to spend money on this app and these leads and whatever the hot topic is. And you really need to focus on building a better foundation before you go adding a screen porch.
I feel like we've just, as an industry, became a little bit, not lazy, but you just have, this CRM.
You say it, Alan. We're lazy.
Okay, so I'm going to own it. A little bit lazy because I love just pick up the phone, right? Start by doing that. You don't just rely on a CRM and you send 3 or 4 or 5 emails and then the day's done. Like, I don't know what happened, but people are just moving away from the phone. But to me, that's where everything happens.
Well, it's funny. They send these emails and then say, well, nobody replied to me. I'm like,
well,
did you send out? You sent out crap. You didn't even tell them anything interesting. You didn't You didn't provide value. I mean, we should be focused on, in all of our business endeavors, how do you provide value? If you have value and they're not hearing it, then you got to change your method of delivery, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're just sending an email to sell something, but tell me something about me. Like why is this important to me right now? If I have that, maybe I will return your email.
Exactly.
So I completely agree. So this is the thing that really is the question that is the most exciting to me because it deals directly with you. So as I said, adversity is a fair teacher, something that I really, really believe. Like as a leader, like what are some of the lessons that you've learned throughout this crisis that you could share with us about yourself as a leader?
Well, the first one is that I needed people more than I realized. So I'm a natural introvert, which nobody ever believes because
that's impossible. That's impossible.
I'm a chameleon though. But by nature, introverts love feeding other people, but then we're drained by it. And extroverts feed other people and they then feed off of them and they go up. And so I've noticed that being away from my normal relationships and being away from the realtor family and away from buyers and sellers, I've gotten so drained because I'm not getting filled back up that it's been hard some days. And so I've had to find other ways to elevate. And what that's caused me to do is to go back to some relationships that I had not nurtured correctly. And I had to go back and say, I'm sorry, I haven't followed up with you in the last few years, but I was thinking about you and I hope you're well. And so
that is great.
A dose of humility to say, I haven't done as good a job as I could have done. People love that. They value that. And then you can really rebuild the relationship. And so I've taken what I had been doing wrong, where I was too busy doing too many things, got completely stopped and chose to rebuild with that. And so that's been a learning experience. And I won't unlearn that because like one of my dearest friends in the world, she and I both busy, both moms and teenagers and
Absolutely.
working. And we were talking, and now I'm talking to her all the time again, and it's been amazing. And so
That is awesome.
that's a big thing. And the other thing I've learned is that it's easy to fall into a trap. And by that trap, I mean, you thought something was more important than it is. You thought the money was more important. You thought the business schedule was more important. And I think we've all reshifted our priorities a little bit because of this season. But those priorities don't mean you stop prospecting and you don't stop marketing your business. You just have to think about, how am I creating a message that is going to create a response? And so the responsiveness is the goal. And anybody who watches my social channels, there's a lot of comments and there's a lot of chatter and there's a lot of things in there, because I want to say things that encourage conversation. I want to talk about things in a way that is not me shouting at the world, because in real estate, traditionally we do push marketing. We push our message out, open house, open house, open house, open house. Well, right now, your audience is not talking about real estate. If you look at your timeline, today is August 7th. Everybody in my space is talking about schools and school athletics. What are we going to do about schools, sports? And so if you're the real estate professional over here talking about houses while your people are talking about life and their family, you're so disconnected.
You're missing it out.
This has given us a chance to say, how do we make our message more fluid to the time, to be relevant? And at the same time, you can still drive the point home that you are a real estate professional, but you've got to think now. And I think that's a lesson we will continue to see in the future, because what that creates is what we call pull marketing. And pull marketing, put something out there and somebody comes to you.
Exactly.
Which is the business every realtor wants. They want business. You don't want to buy leads. Well, then, if you don't want to buy leads, quit putting crap on the internet. I just want to throat punch any person who says their little post, I sold a house in 3 days. Shut up.
What?
You made it look easy. We know that you spent a year with that
person. Exactly.
Ready, and what do you do with the cats, and how we manage showings and COVID and all this stuff. And then you went online and said, no big deal. Come on.
Give us the full behind the scenes. We know that it took way more than that.
Right. It's going to suck. It's going to be hard. And so
absolutely.
I have to show you this, because I was had a listing appointment last night, and in my pocketbook, I looked in it and see what they gave me leaving the listing. But you saw my God, but they gave me a tomato on the way out. So like, she pulled them off the garden. She said, "Do you want it?" And I said, "Yeah." And I didn't even notice it was in my pocketbook this morning. But I'm like, that's what creates conversation when you talk to people about more than the comps and the marketing. You talk about the tomato plants. And that builds the relationship, and then you get a free tomato. So that's always
I love it. It's always good to have a free tomato. I'm not going to say something about it, especially since Emily's planting some in the garden as well. So
I'm telling you, man, there's nothing better. You can't buy them at the store. They're not the same thing.
It definitely makes sense. I love it. Everything you just said there. So do you think that this hiatus for you, Leigh, like forced our industry to reimagine, or at least just rethink how work gets done on an agent standpoint? Do you think that it just allowed us to work in a different way, or nothing pretty much changed?
I mean, I say this with love. Nothing will have changed for 99.9% of realtors. Because what happened is they got stopped for a minute because everybody was in a panic. But then as the data and the details become more available, and we realize we do have a serious virus, but it's not as deadly as we thought. You can actually do things. And once real estate was reopened in most marketplaces, realtors have been as busy as they've ever been. And so they're a little insulated in their mind space about what needs to change, because they're too busy. And most realtors, and I say this with love, they're just not big thinkers. They're not 30,000 foot view people, because they're trying to get the next deal together, because that's how they feed their families. And I understand why you get focused on the transactions, but right now agents are in a transactional space.
Absolutely.
We need to be thinking in a future space. And so you will see a lot of conversation happening about fair housing, and there's conversations about creating opportunities for home ownership, and there's some really big things that are happening in the societal space that we're in, which are really going to be positive and uplifting for a lot of people.
Agreed.
But most realtors just don't know what's going on because they're
transaction. Yeah, agreed.
So
Absolutely.
I think it'll change again though when the markets hit a hiccup, and we're going to hiccup at some point in the near future because of liquidity issues in the mortgage market, and inflation's going to hit, which is going to pump the brakes a little bit. And then your transactional agents will say, what am I supposed to do now? That's when they start seeing things differently. They go back to education. They go back to good practices. And we just have to hope that the transactional agents can go one level higher to think.
I love it. I love the 30,000 view you just used there, because I believe that as an industry, more often than not, we just focus on the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. And sometimes, especially things like what's happening, to me personally, just gave me the opportunity to kind of step back a little bit and look at the business at a whole nother level. Because when you're doing what we're doing, we just keep on going, okay, the next thing, the next meeting, the next thing, and the next thing. But being in this bubble, in a way, just allowed you to look at so many things that, I should say, you missed a little bit, so you can just work in terms of just being able to do better at those things later on. So I love it. That's really a great example.
Well, and the best way to put it is my friend Marky Lemons Ryall. She's a real estate instructor, and she's a broker in the greater Chicago market. And Marky and I have these conversations all the time about the fact that we're both super busy and we have a ton of irons in the fire. And we were discussing, my new book just came out. Marky had another line of journals and stuff come out, and she's a hustle entrepreneur all day long. But she said at some point you have to stop making money so you can make money. And it's the best way in the world it was ever said, because sometimes we're so focused on what we are currently doing, we don't stop long enough to do the next big thing, which could be huge.
Absolutely.
So that's a big sacrifice, though, for a lot of people, to say you're going to have to give this deal up so that you can do something even bigger, which may entail risk and it may not even work out. But that's where the bigger rewards are.
I agree. You always have this dilemma between, I have something good, but are you willing to forget about the good in order to reach the great, right?
Exactly.
And this is like 99% of people that I know, they will always tell me, I'd rather stay where I am. Like, it's good. Well, yeah, but you can actually get great. And as you say,
I can't do that. See, that's the difference in the entrepreneurial mindset.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
I call it a semi-entrepreneurial mindset, because they do enjoy being outside of a corporate space, but they're not out here. And you and I
Exactly. I love it. That's such a great example. So the next question is a personal one. Like, I would just love to know, what are some of your personal goals for the remainder of the year? Like, any vacations coming up for you, or even on the business standpoint? You mentioned a book? The book out when soon?
I'm trying to see if I have one in my office. I think I mailed them all out, but my new book came out 2 weeks ago. It's brand new.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
Thank you. It's called Peeling the Onion, and it's actually about bringing your relationships back. And I started it before the pandemic, but it just took forever to get it out. So it's pretty timely.
Awesome.
That's done. So I need to get another book done. So book number 4 will happen before the spring. That's one of my goals. And I've got to sell some houses, because there's no conferences to go to. And it's just killing me. There's no conferences because I need the interaction. But that's not going to be happening until next year, I don't think. But I will say that one of my personal goals, it's a project I started. This is my 3rd year, and I hold speaker boot camps where I'm teaching other people how to put together your presentation. How do you get hired? Because one of the things that you have to do as you are becoming a leader in a space is you have to replace yourself.
Exactly.
And so I can't do all the things that I'm asked to do. So I need to find more great people and push them forward. And then they're probably better than I am, and they're bringing forward new ideas and new energy and new perspective. So I'll be doing that again this fall, and we're probably going to change the dates and bring it up from December. But those have been the best thing ever, because I get to watch people who didn't know how to go from step A to step C. And then they go to Z because they're just ready for it. They just needed to be shown the path. And so I get to show the path. That'll happen again this year. and
awesome.
my daughter's going to get her driver's license in
Oh
November.
wow! Congratulations! That's awesome.
So that's
awesome.
Good. Yeah.
That's awesome. So can I sign up for that conference that you just mentioned there?
I'll make sure that you and your bride get an invitation, right? And
I would love to
sponsor it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, why not? I would definitely love to have more information about it. When you talked about it, just reminded me, like, those are the things actually I think that I would love to work on a little bit more. And I think it's a great idea, by the way. That's just
well, again, I have to tell you that the best part to me is that, and you know this, when you start becoming successful, it gets harder to get information because people say, I got to hold it to myself.
Exactly.
They hoard information.
Agreed.
And it was hard when I was getting started as a speaker because nobody would give me full answers. And I said, I need to change that paradigm and give everything back. And so what happens is in these little cohort groups, they lean on each other. And so we're actually watching networks be created and people that are of the mindset that there's abundance out there and they can support each other successfully. So I feel like a mama hen watching TV, but to see the synergy that comes from being willing to make each other better, it's huge.
That's awesome. That is really, really awesome. Definitely interested on that one. If we are able to travel, maybe that will be a great opportunity to come back to Charlotte once again.
Exactly. You never know. We have American Airlines hub, but then any city to travel to.
Absolutely. That could be really, really interesting. Leigh, let me first say thank you. Thank you for making the time today. It was really, really awesome to connect. So as Emily, I've been talking about you for years now, and I just really, really wanted to thank you for your time today. It was so insightful, not only for me, but I'm sure for the people who get to listen to the interview and look at the interview as well. So this is Recovery, episode 6, with the awesome Leigh Brown. Is in the books. You can catch this episode on YouTube and on all platforms streaming podcasts. And remember, in the recovery, don't just get back to the same place, but strive to get to a better place. Thank you. Thank you, Leigh. That was really awesome.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Awesome. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to help promote it and help you grow your audience.
Definitely. I really, really appreciate your time. This was a true treat for me today.
Well, I will look forward to connecting more in the future. It's good stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leigh. Have a good day ahead.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.